Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Martin Willis, your host, and I'm really excited about tonight's guest. My good friend Col Lehto is on with us tonight, and we're just going to have a fun discussion. We're going to talk a little bit about this, a little bit about that, and I have actually no idea where we're going, but we'll have fun. And so the blog this week by Charles Lear is Flying Saucer Working Party. Now, you can kind of try to figure out what that means. I have not had a chance to read it, but as all the blogs that Charles does, it's going to be very well researched. Check out our website and that blog and dozens and dozens and dozens of other blogs at podcastufo.com. I want to thank all of our supporters as usual. I really appreciate it. Without you, we could not move on. The show does cost money. Anyone can be a supporter over at Patreon. And I want to also thank each and every listener. Now, we're going to be talking a little bit about Lue's book because he and I are both right in the middle of reading it. And what I'm talking about is Lue Elizondo's book, Imminent. And we are both into that. We're going to talk a bit about that and so much more. And I'm ready to bring in our guest. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, Martin. Great to be here. Good to see you.
So good to have you back. And that was, I've said this many times, but this is really the first time you've been on since a year ago, July 26th. That hearing was definitely the highlight of doing what I do. That was really amazing. I mean, do you think about that sometimes? And how do you feel similarly about that?
Yeah, I can't believe it was over a year ago now.
I know it's just flying by.
It was certainly a surreal experience.
It really was. And just to think that you were the very last person in that door out of the.
Remember, Sarah gave up her seat. She was in front of me because she was with us.
Yeah. Those people that snuck in front of us.
I still get a lot of comments saying, like, I can't believe you said you were there. You're not in any of the photos.
Oh, really? Well, you know what? Yeah. The funny thing is every time I see this, and, I just watched Ross Coldhart interview Lue Elizondo. And sure enough, you can see my camera sticking right up in the air in back row.
You paused it.
I make all the shots.
On it. I was going to check. Oh, maybe you can see me in there, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I've seen myself and Donna in a couple of pictures, but I don't know if I've ever actually seen you. I'm not really sure if you were really there, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
No, that was
it was amazing. And looking back, I guess I figured we'd have another one by now.
I know, and I think they're going to happen. And one of the things I was going to ask you is, would you actually come over again? Or would it depend on how it sounded? Like if it was like some major players, would you come back over again?
I mean, it seems like I'd certainly be interested for sure. Last time it was a last minute decision as well. They said, I think next week. It's a week prior when we made the plans.
Well, I know I mentioned this before when we were there, but I got up in the morning and I said to Donna, I just saw that Col Lehto is going to be there. And if he's going there, coming all the way from Portugal, then let's go. And we made the plans and, it was like last minute, like you said. I didn't know what we were going to encounter as far as, getting around and all that. But it all worked out really well.
And your buddy,
your buddy that lived, right there, that was amazing.
Yeah, hopefully he's still there. I can crash his place again.
Yeah.
Do another show. Yeah, I would definitely want to. I have. I haven't told you, but I have a couple trips coming up next week. I go to Hessdalen the end of next week.
Right, you've been there a few times. I've
been there one time. That's it. I was scheduled to go a second time for the second diving operation, and that got canceled, or I canceled it. They went and did the operation, but now going back for their field trip weekend.
Awesome.
Yeah, it should be awesome.
Now that must have been really another surreal experience for you.
Yeah, especially since you're so tired from traveling. It wasn't as bad going to Norway because it wasn't jet lag, but still you have to wake up at like 3 a.m., get to the flight, and then you're busy the whole time you're there. It was only 3 days there kind of like DC.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like a dream anyway. You're so tired from the jet lag and whatever. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. There's a lot of people going, as well as Carl, the Crusher.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's going all the way from Utah. He just bought tickets, and we're trying to get Jim Segala to go. If he watches this, he should definitely go to install his MooPass systems. Do you know about that? The MooPass? So basically, Jim Segala, he's mentioned it a few times, and he actually did a show with Ross Coulthart on his new News Nation show, which is kicking all of our butts.
Yeah,
amazing
that's right.
content.
Yeah.
So he was on there. Jim Segala was on there, and he was talking about these. It's basically a measuring system that experiencers can buy and put in their house.
Oh, okay.
And it tracks it online.
Yep.
I actually don't know what MooPass, the actual acronym, stands for, because I should look it up, but or know it better. But we'll find out all the details in Hessdalen, because that's what Carl's trying to do there, is basically work with Team Hessdalen, Fred Pallison, and the 40 plus people there to basically try and install these systems around the Hessdalen Valley. And they measure all types of radiation. They measure, all types of gigahertz ranges. It's like from very low, I think infrasound even. They actually have sensors that detect infrasound all the way up to, many gigahertz. So people can have some, crazy experience, or what they consider an experience, and then go and actually look and see if there was any events. They also track magnetic anomalies and other types of radiation. There's actually radiation detectors as well. So it's pretty interesting. So we'll learn all about that in Hessdalen, go out into the Hessdalen Valley, and then they have a couple of night trips planned where we're going to go out with a bunch of cameras. So it's a bunch of UAP nerds. It's going to be awesome. Super fun. I can't wait. Massimo Teradurani will be there. I've interviewed him a few times. He's the astrophysicist from Italy that's done a bunch of work there for several decades. He's written a few papers, as well as several other people. Erling Strand will be leading it. So it should be exciting.
Erling Strand, right? Erling Strand? What's his last name?
Spelled Strand, yeah. I don't know how to say it correctly. I say everyone's name incorrectly anyway.
So Chris, just a couple of things. Not everyone in the world knows what we're talking about, and you know how new listeners always come in and check things out. As a matter of fact, I'm going to ask you to say a little bit about yourself. But first of all, the Hessdalen lights, that's a phenomenon that's gone. I forget how far back that has gone. Erling's been on this show before talking about it, but
I think Erling started kind of the project, and it was in the early 80s. I want to say 81 or 83. But yeah, basically it's Project Hessdalen has been this valley up in Norway, kind of mid Norway, where it's actually colder in middle Norway because it's in the mountains. And this valley has been the location, a hotspot essentially of many lights in the sky over the years. Erling Strand went there in 81, I believe. It's all on their website, projecthessdalen.org. And they've been having systems out there in the form of cameras and other basically tracking devices, whatever they can put out there, which has basically been cameras, videos, and still photography for since then. So 40 years essentially. And he's had a website that has been up and running for over 20 years as well.
Now, so there's been a lot of, talk about the possibilities. I'm going to open Project Hessdalen here, and I can put these also. The field trip that you're going to be on right there.
There it is right there. Yep.
So anyway, there's a lot of people that are speculating that this is some type of, natural phenomenon due to, the metal content or natural resources there or something like that. What are your thoughts after going there?
That was one theory, and it's the battery idea that basically you have a giant natural battery somehow being created through the rocks. There's a lot of quartz in the area. And I don't know if Massimo was involved in that paper, writing that paper, but anyway, there is a scientific paper on that theory, essentially saying that it is a natural battery. And so what you get is these kind of strange anomalies, light anomalies, if you will, discharging this amount of energy into the air, in a stable configuration. Because if it is a natural phenomenon, no one can actually define what it is, because your normal ball lightning doesn't last that sort of duration. Ball lightning's like 3 to 5 seconds. They say some of these lights last for hours.
Wow.
Other things is when they actually get a view on it, you get the full spectrum. Like you see there, you get the full spectrum of elements, right? It considered black body radiation. If it was a plasma, then it should just be the element that the plasma is. Like green plasma will be a certain frequency, and that should give you like a discrete spectral line. They've done spectral analysis of these lights as well. But what they're finding is you get like full spectrum black body type radiation.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you can see the reflection. Is that
no, they just overlaid the spectral analysis.
Okay,
there.
I get it. I see it now. I understand it now. Yeah.
Yeah, what they're showing is that it has a full body spectrum. That's black body radiation, essentially, is what they're arguing from a lot of these data captures. That was just one there. So yeah, and they also, that's just that part of it, which is, I think, the part you should go after, right? The part that you can actually see and touch, or at least see, right? And get photo and video evidence of. And then if you are getting radar, they have gotten radar hits off these things as well.
Is that right? So
yeah,
that would
all types of crazy stuff up there. They've done all types of experiments over the decades, and so they do have.
I mean, will a radar reflect a natural phenomenon or not? I mean, like, would radar, say if it was plasma, is there any way to know whether a radar would bounce from that?
I don't personally know, actually.
Yeah.
I know radar bounces off of flocks of geese, and it bounces off of little ice particles. So that's how in the F-16 we would use our radar as like a poor man's weather radar, where you tune it and try and look for where the radar was returned. So when it's thicker, it's being returned in that area. You're like, okay, don't go over there. That's where the bad part of the storms is.
Oh, wow.
So there's something
that makes sense.
There's something there reflecting the radar energy back, some sort of anomaly. And that's why, they don't know what it is. They can't figure it out, because what they say is there's instances where it moves like light speed, where they get radar hits that don't seem to make sense.
Yeah.
And then they can't pair it to any natural phenomenon like ball lightning. There's no good theory for what it is. There's kind of ideas. But the general consensus, I would say, from the mainstream is that there's nothing to see there. It's really just the standard arguments, swamp gas, etc.
Yeah.
But the
Now, when you were
scientific
there,
data doesn't match any good theory.
I can't recall, when you were there, did you see anything?
No, I saw the aurora borealis.
Oh yeah, which is really cool.
So I saw lights, but not Heston lights. I saw northern lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. Really good show.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, we had what was it, a month or two ago? We had incredible all over the country. We could see in places that normally we couldn't, which is pretty awesome.
Based on solar flares. Yeah.
Yep. That's right. So just in a nutshell, for the person, that is not familiar with you, and, I know you have a lot of followers, as your show's doing really well. And you were on, I remember the first time I invited you on the show, you told me that you almost did not come on because it was kind of like making the jump, right? Yeah.
That's right. Because you have UFO in the name of your podcast. Yes. So it's, you can't say it was a different thing. Like, no.
Yeah.
It was for UFOs. It was the first podcast I went on.
That's right.
Yeah. Basically, I grew up in Houston, went to the Air Force Academy right out of college, and then became an F-16 pilot back in 2001. and then was lucky enough to travel all around the world, flying different assignments, really varied assignments. You have to move every 2 to 3 years. Never saw anything related to UFOs. Never thought about it. I adhered to the strict scientific viewpoint that it's too far away. Nothing can, as far as we understand it, nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. So yeah, there's probably alien life out there, but it can't get here, etc. Until basically David Fravor's testimony. So I retired in 2020. We were living in Spain, really liked Europe, and wanted to stay in this area. And so we moved to Portugal, retired here, and started making YouTube videos about varied topics. And really what gained traction was talking about this topic, UFOs, and it's quite interesting.
I remember watching one of your early videos on the subject, Debunking the Debunkers, and something like that. And that was Mick West's kind of lame excuse for one of the videos. And you just broke it down on why it couldn't be what Mick West said with your expertise, breaking it down.
Yeah, we had that big, it was pretty awesome. I'd say an epic debunking debate off, essentially.
Yes.
Because Mick West has a team of very smart people, actually, that work at Metabunk. They don't even, they're volunteers.
Yeah.
So he's able to use that team to his advantage to get these kind of interesting little points that he says, oh, that's incorrect, which doesn't invalidate the whole video, even about the gimbal argument. Basically, it is, I believe it is rotation based on the pod, it's the internal workings of the pod. I agree with him, but it doesn't change any of the fact that it's still an anomalous object based on how far away it is, based on how it's maneuvering, and the fact that it's giving some weird, oversaturation of the pod anyway, that it's causing a glare. Is all in line with it being anomalous or some sort of anomalous orb, etc.
Do you remember? I don't know if you remember this, his take on the Tic Tac video. So I had Mick West and Kevin Day on at the same time, and Kevin went and basically said that there's absolutely, he pointed out reasons why it couldn't be what Mick West was actually saying that it was. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the details in whole, but the thing that was really quite amusing out of it is that Mick West said, I see what you're saying. I understand. So basically he was admitting that he was wrong. Mick West admitted that he was wrong. And 2 weeks later, I saw him on the news and he was right back to square one. Like he never had the conversation with Kevin Day. So, whatever works, I guess. And now he's like the leading expert, according to all these news people. They bring him on as a leading expert, which is kind of lame.
I haven't seen him as much, though. I really haven't.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I just don't watch him.
I think he makes a lot of good points, but and I think it's really important to have someone like him out there. But when he, it's so obvious that he's wrong, I don't understand why he would stick with something. To me that's not real science. Or when you can figure it out, but you're still going to stick with your past thoughts. A lot of people are, do that, but still doesn't make it right. But so now you and I'm actually in Lue's book right now, Lue Elizondo, who's coming up on this show on September 10th. And by the way, I'm getting a lot of people sending questions for me to ask him already. But I'm in, I'm about chapter 5, chapter 6 now. Lue is actually reading the book to me because I got the audio version. And so it's really, really great. I like it. I also have the book coming on the way too. But it's fun, listening to him talk. So I'm enjoying that because I can do work and other things or drive or whatever and listen to it. So it was a good idea to do that. So what are your thoughts so far in the book?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I think it's a fantastic book so far. I think I'm in chapter 12.
Chapter 12. Yeah, I think chapter 5 or 6, something like that. Yeah.
I don't know how to cover it. I want to bring out so many points out of the book, but I also, I don't want to step on Lue's toes. I want him to present his material. He has his own YouTube channel now as well.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Yep.
But
So
I think there's amazing parts. Talks about the 23-minute video. Thought that was really interesting.
That's what I'm waiting for. And I asked him that question last time he was on. When can we expect to see that? Because that's supposedly a game changer. I don't know what detail he goes into it in the book, but I think so many people are waiting for that. And I actually already have a couple of people have written that question. What happened to the video? They want me to ask him that.
Yeah, he definitely goes into a page of detail maybe on it in the book. Thought it sounds quite compelling.
Yeah.
He also said in the interview. So I was reading the book. I'd probably be done with it, except then he came out with multiple interviews. So I watched the Joe Rogan interview and Ross Coulthart's show with him, interview with him. And the Rogan interviews, I thought it really interesting. He says that the videos we've seen are the least compelling. And then, he said you're talking 4K video. There's hundreds of compelling videos.
Oh, I'm sure.
That we can't explain.
Yeah.
He mentions one of pilots flying and they hear something on the radar, or they see something on the radar. And then the pilot, he cusses and something flies within 50 feet of the windscreen. He said it's a wedge-shaped object.
Boy, that would be scary, wouldn't it? To be that close?
I don't know how you would video it, though, in the cockpit. But yeah,
it'd be going by so fast, right? I mean...
Yeah, you kind of wonder if there's weird optical effects if it's like a bird or something, but, it depends on their altitude. Well, it can be bird at 25,000 feet also.
Right. Yeah.
But it sounds like they paused it and you can see it clearly as an object, some sort of wedge-shaped object.
So I want to just skip back. I want to continue this conversation, but I want to skip back and ask you about when you were trained, did they ever talk about, I'm not going to say the word UFO, UAP, whatever, but did they ever talk about if you see something you have a hard time identifying or anything along those lines when you were being trained?
No.
So, I mean, how would, it was supposedly that was addressed in the Air Force Academy book at one time and removed. I think there were some people that had uncovered that it was actually there. But I mean, I'm just surprised that there was never any mention of, because of course you have to identify, and a lot of the technology identifies anyway, but still you have to still identify things, and you can never recall any time that they would mention anything about identifying.
Nothing about unidentified flying objects, not once.
Yeah.
I mean, you're always trying to figure out what something is, that where the enemy is and where the enemy is not. IFF is an interrogator, friendly or foe. That's one of your main systems. So you're definitely always trying to identify stuff. But even in the air, I can't remember a single time I was like, I can't identify that on the or by looking outside visually, and it was in my airspace. Like if something's in your airspace that you're fighting in and you detect it with your radar or your eyes, I think you have to identify it.
Now, when you do see something like that, do you have to write a report? Like if it's when you're identifying something, I'm sure you do if it was an adversary, but I mean, in a regular situation.
Well, they have, remember it came out, there was a Freedom of Information Act request in those warning areas on the East Coast. There were those UAP sightings. I think I went through like 40 of them. They came out, it was redacted.
Okay, yeah.
It's because those were in the airspace. So if it interferes with a mission for some reason, or especially safety of flight, it's really safety. Anything to do with safety of flight, you have to make a report.
Right.
So if something of large enough size that it could damage an aircraft is in the airspace, then that it should be a safety of flight report. And actually, safety of flight, I was reading Lue's book. That's kind of the one thing I think would be most beneficial for UAP investigation, at least in the DoD, is all safety information. They enacted this, what's called safety privilege. And so what that means is, what they found is people would not bring out information. So would they lie? Probably, or at least they wouldn't bring anything out, for sure. When it comes to accident investigations, so what they do is they do two separate complete accident investigations. Whenever there's an accident, they do the AIB, which is the Accident Investigation Board, and basically that's like criminal, has lawyers and such. They read your rights.
Wow.
But what they do is they added a secondary channel called safety privilege, and no one actually knows the identification of any of the stuff that's in the safety privilege file. So it's non-attributional, and so it's protected by law essentially, unless you do something criminal, like with criminal intent, you went to steal something. Yeah. But if you just make a mistake, then what'll happen is it'll be protected through safety privilege. And I think that would be the best way to actually treat the UAP topic, is to say that it's a safety of flight issue and just use the safety channels that we already have. And when they investigate that, you just take it, you already have the safety world that already does all these investigations. Now you just say, okay, we're going to add in safety UAP. And then it just falls in under the whole investigation, everything like FAA is on. Whenever there's a commercial incident, well, at least in the Air Force, they do safety privilege, where they're going to go investigate, but it's going to be non-retributional. So none of the names are saved. They scrub all the data, etc. So that would be a great way to get accurate reporting from UAP events.
Do you think Ryan Graves is going to, make a difference in any of this with what he's trying to do?
Without a doubt, yeah. He pushed. So Americans for Safe Aerospace pushed through his amendment. I believe it was shot down, right? I think that was Garcia posted an amendment to the House bill, and it talked about requiring FAA to allow UAP reporting, or some incident. There was some way it helped. It required FAA UAP reporting, from what I understand, but it was shot down within like 2 days. They cut it before it even made it. It didn't even make it to the floor or anything.
Yeah, that's too bad. I mean, it seems like it's a no-brainer, because it, like you say, it's in a way it's safety of flight, or it could be, it could be interpreted as that.
Well, they found it. You're talking safety of flight, millions and billions of dollars and many lives. They were finding that doing retribution, so going after people criminally, actually was hurting the investigations, obviously. And so people were not bringing out, when they made mistakes, they weren't bringing up safety issues. So it's kind of the same thing here, is people aren't bringing up any UAP events that they see because of the stigma. They fear retribution.
Right.
So there's already a channel that exists, at least in the DoD world. So any of these military sightings could just be followed up with, they could just be classified as safety events under UAP, and then all these people are safe, their identities are protected.
Yeah. Now let's get back to Lue's book and all that. For one thing, I watched Ross Coldhart interview him the other night, and saw Jennifer actually talking, his wife Jennifer, talking about the toll it has taken on the family. And I've been in touch with her now for a couple of years, or 3 or 4 years, I think. And so I wrote her immediately. I had no idea it was this much of a strain on your family. And wasn't that bizarre? I highly recommend people, if you haven't watched that interview, and I haven't watched the Joe Rogan one yet, but I probably will. But the green orbs, the hitchhiker effect, so to speak, and the green orbs that were like terrorizing them, and in their home, and that's one I've heard. For some reason, green orbs I've heard before, that are just these little small things and almost seem like they're under intelligent control. I'm not sure if that's the deal or not, but it really is strange. But
that's what you said, and can go through walls.
Right. Yeah. Bizarre. But I mean, again, she makes the point where, people think, or say all these mean things. She's written some things to me that how people have terrorized them, basically, and it's unfortunate that there's people out there that are try to make other people's lives miserable, just and accuse them of all sorts of things, the grifting and all that, all the accusations, which is kind of silly because of when she talks about having to take a job at Target and then at Home Depot just to get by. Those, it's not like they're getting a lot of money out of this whole situation.
Yeah, exactly. People always complain if anyone promotes their book.
Yes.
But there's like 3 people making money in books. I think it's quite rare. It's not like you're going to pay a normal salary unless you're one of the extreme top bestsellers. I wish his book to be one of those top bestsellers. I think it could be easily.
I do too. And he put his, when I was saying I was in touch with her, I started, communicating with her, I think around the time when he started the book. And, she said that he's in it really, really is taking all of his time. And so he was really, really involved in writing that book. And so far, I had no idea that he did any type of remote viewing. I thought that program had closed in like 1970 or something like that. But, he claims that it, was continued use, that it was actually something substantial. And, so I don't know what's ahead in the book. I will have it. I will be through it, by the time I have Lue on, and, to have some really good, hopefully good questions for him.
It's amazing the breadth of topics that it covers, angels and demons,
right?
Remote viewing.
Yeah.
The implants. That was also interesting. I was surprised to see Jennifer on the podcast or the show with Ross Coulthart. And then Lue also had the picture of the implant that had little supposed microfibers coming out of it, or some sort of weird fibers coming out of it, strands, and then was moving of its own accord and power.
That is really scary.
He said it was metal inside as well. So it was metal surrounded by some biological tissue.
Now, it seems to me that would be analyzed, what the heck it was. And the stuff that was coming out of it looked like little plastic arms or something, which is, these little like squiggly things, which is really bizarre. I don't think there's anything natural that's going to grow like that. Plus that it's evading the doctor.
Yes, evading. Yeah, it's creepy.
I wouldn't want, it reminds me of the movie Alien. I would not want anything inside of my body like that. That's so bizarre.
I made a video last week about Alien, comparing it to a praying mantis.
Oh yeah.
I tried to do some sort of fun side topic based off of Alien.
So you really ramped it up. And I remember you and I had a conversation right before you said you were going to really ramp it up. And so sometimes I'll see like 4 and 5 shows released all at one time, from you.
It was over the summer, starting in June. I did for 45 days. I did a video every day. And then got burnt, and then totally burned out. Crashed.
Yeah.
Somersaulted down and then crashed.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing 2 a week.
Yeah, 2 a week
now. Yeah, Tuesdays and Fridays.
Yeah, that's still. I mean, you got a great audience. There's still a lot of people really interested. But I've said this, and I know you and I've had the conversation that there's so many people, and I do want to actually mention at this time that I really do appreciate everyone that watches this YouTube channel and wherever it is else, Facebook and all the other places. And who listen to the audio. That's where my, my major audience is audio. And I really, really appreciate it, because I know I'm going to sound like an airline. I know you have lots of choices, because you really, really do. There's, people that have these YouTube channels that have like 3 million subscribers say, well, maybe I'll go down this road. And, this is really popular now. And so I know there's a lot of people out there that are, I've watched, the views go down on YouTube, but my audio stays the same. But still, the YouTube, has gone down quite a bit. And I don't think it's because of the content. I don't know. Maybe I'm fooling myself, but I think it's because of the variety of shows that have popped up. Hundreds of them.
A huge variety. Well, how long you've been in this game? 9-10 years now?
13, I think 13 years
13
coming up
years.
in November.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think you must have seen a large influx of random people like me joining and starting podcasts.
Ever since 2017, that article came out. So 2018, I started seeing more and more, but I would say in the last year and a half, there's been an influx of hundreds of shows on this topic. Some people I've watched, I get Palmer, who I had Palmer, who helps me out with all types of information. And I had, he's also a great artist. I commissioned a little painting that he did. And so Palmer has sent me all types of, videos constantly of these different takes on UFOs, UAP, whatever you want to call them. And there's some really great shows out there. I have to admit that people are doing a really good job with this topic, and very fascinating. And so
I think it's great for, discovery. It's great for learning more information, great for disclosure, bad for our channel view numbers, etc.
Yeah.
Well, we need to step it up, etc.
Yeah. I don't think either one of us ever had started this with that in mind. I know I didn't, way back when, I put money into the show on a monthly basis for, 6 years, several $100s a month, and doing the show, but it's at a point where it's okay now. But I mean, for the longest time. So what I'm getting at is, I don't think either one of you or I ever thought of doing the show. Money had anything to do with anything. It's just a curiosity and all that.
Exactly. For me, it was something I could do from overseas.
Were you doing something else prior to this? Did you have that YouTube channel established?
No,
before?
I retired in 2020. I actually did write a book for 6 months. I wrote a book about flying in Iraq, and I have the draft finished, but I have to go back and I have to rewrite it,
mm-hmm.
re-edit. I still haven't, but I did that for 6 months. Like it does take a long time, a lot of mental effort. And then started the YouTube channel. And like you said, you put money in, time, for at least the first year and a half.
Right. Yeah.
And then now it pays for itself and for additional trips.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
Really, thanks to viewers. Yeah, I love the audience.
Built. I know. Isn't it fun to meet people? I mean, when we were in Washington, all the people we both met, that was so much fun. I mean, like people recognizing us, and we almost feel like a celebrity. And,
you are a celebrity, Martin.
13
years.
Right. Yeah, I guess, but still, it was so much fun to just be there with alike minds, as they say. And remember that poor girl that drove all the way from, where did she drive from? She was right behind us and she didn't get in. It was so frustrating. She was you knew her, you were very friendly with her. She was New Year's, she came there. One of the reasons she came there was to
Sarah.
meet you. What's that?
Sarah?
I think so. Blonde hair?
Yep. Yeah. We went on a tour after with the congressman.
Oh, yeah.
From North Carolina.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. No, Sarah's in the UAP Society. Yeah. So she was one of the moderators. This whole community that grew up UAP Society now, and they have their own channel.
They do, really?
They have their own YouTube. Yeah, UAP Society. I started it, and then now it's run by Ali and and Justin, but Sarah was also there.
I'm going to check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, UAP Society, definitely check it out. Every week they do a weekly UFO news show.
Yeah. There's another example of another one that's sprouted
we
up.
Started another one. I started competition for us.
Yeah.
To get more information out there. There was one point I wanted to bring up about the book is for the remote viewing. Lue Elizondo also talked about the caudate putamen. It's that part of the brain.
Oh, yes.
Gary Nolan said that it was enlarged in the cases that were brought to him. And he said that could be where you gain your whatever intuition. I think he said that before. Gary Nolan has on other podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
But that could be related to also remote viewing. That remote viewers have a larger. So they also made that relationship. When you mentioned remote viewing and Lue Elizondo, I thought of that, where they made a relationship between that part of the brain.
Yeah. And so he also mentioned that in the Ross Coulthart interview, where he said he didn't know if that either attracted, UAP or that, it was an after effect, which is still very interesting. And, I'm wondering, it seems like if this study is there's really a validity to the study. I'm wondering how far that will be taken. In other words, will the government get involved in actually studying this, or is that just too far out there for them? What would you think?
Well, they are, right? Allegedly from Arrow.
Oh, you think they are getting involved with Arrow? I don't know. Yeah.
It's amazing, right? We get just such opposing perspectives. You get Lue Elizondo, he comes out and says, this is real. Then they stand up the Arrow. And then Sean Kirkpatrick says, vehemently, he's still saying it. He's not even the director anymore. He goes on podcasts. There's no evidence of ET. We saw everything. It's always the same people. But he's mentioned also nothing about the Nimitz or the gimbal or the nuclear events. They haven't touched any of that stuff. Arrow hasn't.
Well, here's the thing that I watched this kind of unknown conference where Sean was going to be talking. I watched it live, and someone in the audience raised their hand in the front row of the press, and they said, "What about the 2004 Tic Tac incident off of California?" And Sean blatantly said that you out there, you have all the information I have. I don't have any other information. So what's to investigate? You can see everything on YouTube. That was his point on that. And I'm thinking, oh my God, is he trying to say that those bricks were taken off the what I can forget the name of the ship, the Princeton, right?
Yeah, the Princeton.
So those data bricks were taken by someone, and if that's not more evidence, and I'm sure there's much more camera footage. There's supposed to be a lot of footage of that's unseen, and so is he basically saying there's nothing to see here? What do you think about that?
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's what Lue Elizondo said. That was another interesting point I learned from the book, is that they investigated the Nimitz. ATIP did. So they did a full investigation of the Nimitz. Yeah, he said I think he sat in an interview with Alex Dietrich, or at least when she was talking to Congress. And he said they have all the data on it. At least they've done a full investigation. So I was very interested to hear that. And yet, when you hear Kirkpatrick say that there's no more information, well, obviously, there's a full another investigation that the Air Force has done. Is it the same thing that's been covered already? I can't imagine there's no new data. What about the radar tapes, etc.?
Yeah. But I mean, for him to say that everyone out there has all the information there is on that, I thought that was really pretty lame.
And Elizondo said unequivocally in I believe the Rogan interview or the Coulthard interview, he said, yeah, he's lying. Kirkpatrick said he lied.
Yeah.
So
I'll have
quite
to
interesting.
check that out.
So no, I don't think they're investigating it. At least not from Arrow.
So on the shows that you've been doing, I have to say, you've been doing, so you put out something every 45 days. So you're catching up to me as far as the shows that I have out there. And I know it was a lot of work, but did you learn a lot doing that?
Yeah, I learned an immense amount. And that's when you said, why do you start doing the YouTube? You know, I'm sure you did as well, because I'm assuming you like to talk to people. And so you enjoy, you know, interviewing people every week.
Yes.
I really enjoy learning new things. So if I can combine that learning with a video, that's what I did. And so I just focused on what did I really want to learn about that day, and then buckled down and made a video about it for the following day or whatever. So it was really focused on what I want to learn about, which doesn't always align with my audience, what they want to hear. You know,
right.
There's certain videos that they just don't like at all. And you mentioned views there. There's so much competition now in the UAP space. You know, if you make a video off topic, I'm still interested in it. But yeah, that's why I do this, to try and learn. So I learned a huge amount. I covered a variety of topics going past to old cases. I thought that was interesting. I learned about astronaut cases. You know, I didn't know on the first moon landing, actually on the way there was a UAP sighting. I learned about that. Very interesting. I learned about a Russian case, Voronets.
Oh, is that the one with the real tall beings?
Or 9 feet tall, like 3 eyes, and they like.
That's such an intriguing case. I know Peter Robbins had done some work on that. I'm not sure who else has investigated that, but that's a real, in a park or something. That is such a bizarre.
Yeah, another kid mass sighting one. I find, and then I went through. I did the Australian cases.
Westall and.
I went through Westall because I hadn't really spent too much time with that, so I, had to catch up. You guys with 13 years of experience, you know all this stuff ingrained. I still get comments, like, I can't believe you don't know about this.
Oh God! I mean, there's still, like, I love learning new cases, and there's lots of them that I've never heard about before, and I'll mention Ison Cinema is out, putting out all these things. And Palmer, who I was mentioning before, meeting up with him, he has sent me, a lot of really interesting cases that I've never heard before. And I've tried to get in touch with that person, Ison Cinema, and they were bounced off of YouTube at one point because of copyright material, and now
I don't know how they get around
monetized. Yeah. He's not monetized, but you can buy him a cup of coffee.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that's how he gets around it. Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know how anyone can get that material that he gets. He's never responded to me anytime I've written him, but I know I can't. I don't know what country he's in. I do you know anything about that channel? Yeah.
No, I watch it time to time. That's it. Or I use videos from there if I can, and they're not copyrighted.
Yeah.
I try and I use. Well, there's a Canadian case, Falcon Lake.
Oh yeah, Falcon Lake. That's always fascinated me.
I used one of his videos for that, Falcon Lake, and I saw that in the Ross Coulthard interview with Lue Elizondo. They showed biological effects, and that was one where he's supposedly standing in front of the vent, and it makes like the vent shaped.
The grid mark
pattern, like a grid on his chest in radiation, which allegedly came back later a few times in his life. So it was like ingrained deeper than the skin level or something.
There's supposed to be a plaque there, but it's really remote and hard to get to. But supposedly someone put a plaque where the incident happened. That would be
that's interesting too, because they allegedly went there. The mounted police or the Mounties went there. and tested it with radiation counters and detected radiation.
Yeah.
Just like Rendlesham Forest. That's also, you see that in, I was just literally before we talked, I was reading in Lue's book about, it was the 1981 case or 1980 case in Texas. Betty, sees the diamond object, and it.
Oh yes.
I'm sure you know
the Landrum case.
Cash Landrum, Betty. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Colby's been on the show. He doesn't do very many appearances at all, and I did talk him into getting on my show one time, and since that time, I've had all these like TV stations and stuff contact me wanting me to, reach out to him, but he doesn't really want to be interviewed any longer at this, as far as I know. But yeah, that's a fascinating case, and Michael Schrad is 100% convinced that was one of ours. That it could have been like radiation, I forget, nuclear propulsion or something like that gone wrong.
What's interesting is probably one of the most interesting cases I learned. You asked what I learned over the 45-day sprint. Was this the barbell case, giant barbell case?
Oh yes,
I love
in Canada. That one. Yeah,
and it really showed. I mean, the witness is just amazing. He's like literally the guy.
Come forward and identify himself.
I mean, that guy should go to a hearing. He's got the video where he took the video, and it's just static. You can't see, but you can hear.
Yeah.
So why would you have no static on a videotape? So interesting. And his cameras wouldn't turn on. And he was like a laser physicist.
Yeah.
So he basically said that the craft worked by electromagnetic propulsion, some sort of EM field. There was anodes and cathodes, and it would create this plasma around the object when it was rotating. And so what he said, he like measured the plasma. He knew it was 12 inches across and could determine like the actual power output. It was some immense, ridiculous power output for this electromagnetic craft. But that goes back to Lue's book. He talks about EMPs, essentially. That's what Hal Puthoff said. It was an electromagnetic pulse that knocked down 2 aircraft at Roswell. So yes. Lue again comes out, says Roswell was real.
Right.
There were 2 craft, and they got 4 bodies out of that, deceased.
One thing I thought was kind of interesting that he said that 1 craft actually took off.
That's right. That's right. So 1 crashed, and then 1 was still intact and left.
But yeah, supposedly the one that would have taken off, it was like 50 miles away. That other supposed thing the size of a Volkswagen was there. I don't know. I mean, it's so confusing, and I've had people on trying to figure out that whole thing. What's real and what's, I don't want to say fabricated, but just rumor or whatever, trying to figure it all out. But yeah, that was, he did mention how many times the government has lied about that. I can't believe this, but we're at the end of the show already. How did it happen?
Chatterboxes.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to talk. We mentioned Ross Coulthard a few times. He's killing it. But I'm going on a Egyptian trip that JP Hague set up, and he advertised it as Ross Coulthard. It was like 18 months ago. I totally forgot I even signed up. It got delayed because of the war, but now it's going in November, so we'll actually be.
Oh my God, that ought to be a blast, huh?
Yeah. It's long. It's 11 days, I think, 10 days.
Wow, boy, that'll be a great experience.
That should be amazing.
Great experience for you. All right, man, we got to go. So good to see you.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
All right, let's talk soon.
All right, see you.
Bye. All right, everyone. So we'll be back. I keep saying we're going to have Earl Grey on next week. This time it's for real. One time he had to reschedule, but I had it mixed up between Chris and Earl. So he will be on next week. Thank you so much, everyone, and keep your eyes to the sky.